Campaigners in support of Leon Briggs, the Luton man who died in police custody, are calling for all police officers to wear video equipment to reassure the public. The Justice for Leon Committee is making the case to police and councillors at the Town Hall in Luton this afternoon. 39-year-old Leon died at Luton Police Station on the 4th of November. Well, Justin Dealey's been outside Luton Police Station this morning, seeing if people agree with the use of video recording.
Well, I think it would make sense. I mean, the traffic wardens in London have got recording equipment on their uniform to save any concerns or when people are being violent and aggressive towards them, so I don't see why anybody would have a problem. Unless you're doing something wrong, I don't see why anybody would have a problem with it, then there's no questions to answer then.
So you'd have absolutely no problem. If you were having a conversation with a police officer and they're recording you, you'd have absolutely no issue with that at all?
None at all. I can't see what the problem would be. I mean, it's good for the police as well, because if false accusations are put in against them, they can prove what happened at the time.
Yep.
It's also good for the public. If they make an accusation against the police, it can be proven that something went wrong.
Dexter, you're in your 20s. The police have stopped you at various points. How would you feel if the police were recording absolutely everything that happened? How would you feel about that?
Uncomfortable. Just knowing that they're going to be going back to the police station and knowing they're watching footage and I'm all over the footage, clearly that I haven't done anything wrong. My personal opinion is I wouldn't be happy with that, knowing that they're sitting back watching it. If it's to prevent crime, which is fair enough, but most of the time it's not.
And just lastly, you have been stopped by the police various times. What exactly have you been stopped for?
Drugs, burglaries and gun crime. They're the main ones that you get stopped for, or that I've been stopped for in Luton.
So they've stopped you and searched you. Have they found anything?
No, never. Never found me with nothing.
How does that make you feel, that they have stopped you time and time again, but they found nothing?
Annoyed. You feel you get harassed. And obviously, like when you're busy and you haven't got time and you stop, especially when you get stopped in the same area in the same road and you live in that area, and they see you walking around. And they might expect you to be up to no good, but you live in the area, walk around, what are you supposed to do, you know what I'm saying? You can't walk around without getting stopped in Luton nowadays. Like with me walking down the street with a hood up, that's a good enough reason in the police eyes just to pull me over.
I mean, clearly you've got no trust in the police, and again, you don't agree with the filming, do you?
No, I don't agree with it, no.
Thank you, Justin. Joined now by Nigel Leskin, who's a partner at Birnberg Pierce, the solicitors for Colin Roche, who died at Stoke Newington Station, Jean-Charles de Menezes, who was shot by police at the Birmingham 6, and the Guildford 4. Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning.
Nigel, what's your involvement with Justice for Leon?
I didn't know Leon, but I know people involved with his campaign, some of them, and I think that it's really important that the police are held to be accountable in all cases, that they have the opportunity to put across what they did and that the public can see whether they acted properly or not, because it's important to have a police force that we have faith in. And I went in support of I was at the vigil outside the police station a couple of weeks ago, which was extremely well attended, and I support the calls for a proper inquiry into what happened, but also the calls for what they call Leon's Law, the cameras, the body cameras being worn by police officers when they're dealing with the public.
Why do you think police officers wearing cameras and recording everything would make such a difference? Why is it so important?
Well, I think it's important because, as your very first person you just talked to outside the police station said, it works both ways. It protects the police when allegations are made against them, and it protects the public who are being searched to ensure that they're not misquoted what's happened, that violence isn't used against them, that items aren't planted on them, etc. I mean, I have an example which I'd like to give you. It comes from a case that I dealt with last year. The police were surveilling following people, and they had so there was always cameras on them, etc. So the police, the idea that, if you just stop and search, what the young man was saying at the end was that he wouldn't like the idea of them having information on him. Well, they have all that information anyway. They have surveillance, they have CCTV, they have photographs, etc. But in this particular case, they were following, surveying, and filming, and were filming with video cameras of what happened. They armed officers then decided to arrest two men. One of them was my client, and the police officers knew that they were being filmed, but also knew that the film was policy to stop the film at the point of arrest. So the film of what happened shows police officers come out with their guns up and armed police jump on the men, and the men go being taken down to the ground. The camera then switches off, and we have the police officer's statement, which says, I saw a male prone on the footway being restrained by armed officers. This is the police officer saying this. I moved over to assist the officer who was searching my client. The officer goes on to say, fearing that he was intent on escaping, thus refusing to permit his arms from being restrained, I covered him with my firearm and attempted to distract him with a kick to his left shoulder. As I did this, he moved slightly, and my foot struck the top of his head. This seemed to distract him. Well, obviously that then became an incident. What actually happened? If the officer's account, which seemed to us, seemed to most people reading it quite unlikely, but then there was my client's account that he wasn't doing this, and he was just attacked by the officer and he had injuries, and that was the way the officer was explaining. If there had been cameras, if they hadn't switched off the CCTV, the video camera at that point in time, there would have been no dispute. So I think it's really important that everybody can see and have faith, both from the police's point of view and the public's point of view, what happens. And that's why in custody officers now, in police stations, for the last 5 years or so, there have been cameras at every, in the custody office, in the main custody office and outside the cells, and so that one, and there's sound with it as well, so that when somebody is arrested, in most parts of the public, most parts of the police station where a defendant's going to be, not all parts, but in most parts, there's cameras which will monitor what happens.
Nigel, thank you very much indeed. That's Nigel Leskin, a partner at Birnberg Pierce, 08459 455 555. Your calls on that, and also more of your calls on Ronnie Biggs, who's died at the age of 84. Hero or villain? I've just retweeted a comment from Squiffy, who says Ronnie Biggs was a hero to the common man who would all have loved to have the guts to do the same.
Really?